Hey, what's up, everybody? You know what it is. You know who it be. It's Jason Murillo, also known as DJ Loudmouth here on WPAT 930 on your AM dial. And Who's Next NYC Radio, Who's Next NYCRadio.com. And we got something a little different today. We're going to have a mashup here between the Who's Next NYC Radio and I believe No Soundbites Allowed.
That's correct.
So we got a very distinguished gentleman here with me today in the studio, live in the building, Michael Vasquez.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm good.
And by the way, some people know me as Michael Vass or Michael Vasquez.
Yeah.
It's okay. I have a federal alias. I am both.
Okay, there we go. All right, there you go. So how's it going? Let's talk to me here. What's going on?
Oh my God, we've had quite the start to a year, haven't we?
Yeah, we have.
I mean, we've got Donald Trump has come in, and nobody in news media is able to keep up with him on this. He has been hitting the mark on 75% of all of his promises. Mm-hmm. He's pretty much in action right now, and he's delivering.
Yep.
On
promises are made, promises kept.
Yeah, and Democrats can't stand it. They don't know what to say because they're like, "Aren't you angry?" It's like, no, that's why I voted for him.
Yeah.
Of course I'm happy he's
and,
doing it.
You know, let's keep it 100. A lot of Democrats voted for Trump too, but they're not going to tell you that.
Well, no. But the numbers say it for themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just straightforward. He was elected to do exactly what he is doing. Mm-hmm. And the public's happy. I mean, he's got great approval numbers. And he's being effective. We were promised for how many decades? You can't get all the illegal aliens. You can't find them all. Mm-hmm. Seems that every state government knew exactly where they were.
Exactly.
We're rounding them up,
mm-hmm.
the violent ones, very quickly, and we're deporting them, like you would think that we always should have been. So the only thing that's been stopping us are Democrats who didn't want to do it.
Yeah, because they're getting financial gain out of it. They have a whole multi-billion-dollar industry for the migrants. You know, they created this mess, and you know, they've been profiting off of it. But Daddy's home now, yeah. And they ain't happening no more.
Well, don't forget, there's also what I know Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, when she did the ABC News interview mm-hmm. in Philadelphia, she told them, when they asked, open borders is about getting the illegal immigrants in and a path to citizenship. Mm-hmm. And why do they want illegal immigrants to become citizens? Well, now they're second-class citizens. They are dependent on Democrats to maintain their status. Mm-hmm. And therefore, they're going to be loyal subjects to the Democrats. They're going to vote Democrat every single time. And this is a way to block out, you're talking about 8 million votes dedicated to Democrats. No Republican could ever win.
What happened to the from 2020 to 24, the presidential election? Biden had over 80 million votes or something.
They said 81 million votes.
What happened to those 20 million voters? Did they just disappear in 24? Where were they?
They watched him talk and fall on flat stages, and they watched Obama guiding him off stage because he didn't know where he was going. We listened to his speeches where he didn't know what he was talking about. Mm-hmm. And we found out that, hey, since January of 2021, according to White House aides, now reported by the international news media, we know the truth. Biden has always been a part-time zombie president. And
it was like Weekend at Bernie's the past 4 years.
Pretty much. And I still would love to have the answer to who, in fact, was running the government. Let's give him the best credit.
We know who was really running the government, who was really president the last 4 years.
It wasn't Kamala.
It was the third term of Barack Obama.
A lot of people say that, and I don't know. But I do know this. Biden, according to internationally credible news agencies, had been saying after the debate with Trump that Joe Biden was only working 5 days a week. He was only available between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. on those 5 days a week, assuming he was in good shape each of those days. So that leaves 18 hours a day, plus the weekend, that Joe Biden wasn't in charge. Mm-hmm. Who's handling everything? Is this why Afghanistan was the biggest rout in American history,
Yeah.
the biggest embarrassment in the world?
Since Vietnam.
Well, it was worse than Vietnam. I mean, because of Afghanistan and the fact that we enabled an entire terrorist army to take place in Afghanistan, well, that shows so much weakness that Putin said, hey, time to go. The reins are off. The light is green. Go. And he went into the Ukraine. And at the same time, we had China turn around and say, yes, we're actively going to go into Taiwan, and they're going to take it by force. That's what they said to us at the time. Why? Because Joe Biden's going to stop us? No. He couldn't stop the Taliban. He gave them helicopters and cash and weapons and bullets. He's not going to stand up to anyone, and he didn't. So
now the Taliban is stronger than ever.
Yeah, and all those. Oh, remember the promise? Don't worry, the Taliban's going to be different this time. They're going to treat women okay. That's why they were poisoning schoolgirls. That's why women don't have the right to go to work every day. Why women are abused right now. This is according to the International Women's Conferences. I don't have to make these things up. These are the facts
It's
being
out there.
reported.
The facts are the facts.
Yeah, and so I'm not surprised that the world is reacting as they are. They finally see a strong U.S. president who has a focused plan, and he's living up to the promises that he made to the American people, literally to the word of what he said he would do, and everyone's happy about it, except, a couple of people who have a political agenda that isn't being served anymore, namely the progressives and Democrats.
Yeah. So, what else you want to talk about? We had a few interesting discussions prepping for the show. Yeah. You want to talk about it?
Oh, we can get into it. I know that you're running for a New York City Council, the 2nd District seat. And congratulations.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to seeing your run. And I know we'll go a little tit for tat on some questions about that. And I'm happy to talk about that. There's a bunch of things that have been bugging me about what's happening here in New York and across the country and internationally. But there's a lot of races going on. But I suppose let's get one of the big elephants in the room out right off the bat. Let's.
I want to talk about Gonzalo Durant, a friend of ours.
Yeah, let's get that.
Just get that out the way.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Gonzalo Durant, and he released a statement this past Monday, pretty much calling out the New York State Conservative Party, and including the state chairman, Jerry Kassar.
Yeah.
And he even took a few shots at me as well.
Yeah.
In the process.
Yeah, I saw the release. I saw it recently. I didn't see it when he first put it out. Let me start by, I've met and I know Gonzalo Durant. I've interviewed him in the past.
He's still a good friend of mine, and I helped him with his past two elections, his campaign races and that.
Yeah.
So it's nothing personal. There's no reason to take shots at people personally. Well, let's continue. Let's have open discussion here.
I looked at the document, and I understand the emotion that's coming from that. I can understand the frustration. I've been a candidate before. In 2013, in particular, I was running for Congress, the New York 22nd District. Huge district, 8 counties, 2.5 hours north to south, hour and a half east to west. That is a huge district. In fact, it's one of the most competitive districts in the nation for a good 5-10 years in a row. And I was running at the time against a man named Richard Hanna. He has since passed. But I said to Richard, to his face, "You're a rhino. You're supporting Democrats." And he publicly has been quoted by news media telling women in particular to join the Democratic Party. And he supported a lot of Democratic issues, in particular with H-1B visas, which I'm very familiar with. I know it's come back into the media, but I'm familiar with it from that. But I said it to his face, And I said, I'm going to run against you. And I did. Because I had very specific issues to run on. Republican values that he was not supporting, even though he was saying he was the Republican candidate. In fact, he got in saying that he was the Tea Party candidate. That's how he got elected into office. He was saying he was that to the right. He was that strongly a supporter of individual rights, minimizing the government. And he didn't. And his record did not equate to that.
Reflect that, yeah.
No. And his words publicly did not reflect that. So I said, I'll run against you because no one else will. Made some enemies.
He's incumbent Republican, and he was openly telling people to register to vote and join the Democratic Party.
Yeah. On the record, absolutely true. Into multiple news agencies in the Southern Tier covered that. And Central New York. And so I did run against him, and I pissed off a few people because I'm going after the incumbent.
Yeah.
And here I am, this guy who most of them had not heard of at that time. So I made some enemies, but I also got a lot of respect in the Conservative Party and the Republican Party, local and statewide, because I was about the issues, and I knew what I was talking about. When they asked me, I was on all kinds of WTQ, WNB, WNBF, WBNG, a few other news stations. They were going, okay, and they grilled me hard because I'm a Republican in New York State.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine so.
Yeah, and being a black Republican at that, it's
man.
no, I'm blowing up the myth.
Oh, man.
You know,
That's a double.
yeah, black Republicans consider this, we exist, and here he is running. It's
Yeah.
like, oh my God. So I say all of that. I say all of that to bring up the point that I understand the emotion Gonzalo's having. That being in politics, and especially a person of color, who's not going down the reservation line of the Democrats, that we all have to be Democrats, that puts you behind the eight ball. I get it. And the news media is not going to treat you nice for that. They're going to avoid us. They're going to not talk about us because we don't fit the mold. And we break that image that's out there that we have to be Democrats. So it's frustrating. It's very frustrating. I know. I've done it. I've lived it.
I'm running in a city council district that is the most liberal, Democratic footholds there is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that doesn't mean that just because I was running in the New York 22nd, and I happened to be black and Hispanic, it would have been the first congressman from that region ever, history making, doesn't mean that everyone lays down and says, okay, Mike, you're here. There's $500,000. We're all jumping behind your bandwagon, and you're going to be the next congressman. I would have loved it.
Yeah.
I think I deserved it.
Yeah.
But I hadn't earned it yet.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point.
And that's the key. And to be fair, in that race, I was doing my best. I wasn't going to get if I had gotten maybe $50,000 in donations, if I had gotten a groundswell like that, things might have been a little bit different. But I saw that it was going to be difficult to get there. But at the same time, I talked to, at that time, Assemblywoman Claudia Tenney. She's now Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, and she's a friend of mine. And I spoke with her, and we were talking on campaign trails, and she was thinking about running, and I said, you know what? She's 90% of the issues that I was pointing out she agreed with. I said, you know what? You already have the name. You already have the infrastructure. You already have the donations. Run. She's like, well, and we went back and forth, and it was a difficult decision. And she was thinking of it anyway, thinking of it down the line. I was like, no, now's the time. Do it. So she ran. And when she ran, I said, you know what? I'm going to endorse you. Because we're both on the same page, but you're the better candidate. I will step down. And I put all of my support behind her. And she got into the race a little bit late. So in 2014, she missed by about 2,000 votes. For someone who came in the last month of petitioning. Wow. And she got within, in that primary, she got within 2,000 votes.
Okay.
2016, she won.
Wow.
She's in office right now.
Wow, that's awesome.
Okay, so, and I think, and Claudia has earned her way, and she was a great candidate, and she had the infrastructure. She fought her way through the assembly, because women have a difficult time with it too, not just blacks and Latinos, or any minority. But and especially as a conservative Republican woman, that makes it, again, she puts her right with you and me and Gonzalo. So I think that's the better way to deal with it, is let's not gripe about it. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass. It shouldn't be like that. Sorry for the language. It shouldn't be like that. But that is the world we're in. That's the politics that we have to deal with at this time. Let's take that energy and transfer it into reaching out to the constituents, making them aware of the issues, and letting everyone else know, hey, you know what? Jump on my bandwagon. I am the right guy. And you should be paying attention. You weren't before. Pay attention now. You see what I'm doing. Get on the bandwagon. Let's get this done. That's the way I think it should have been handled. But I understand the frustration. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it makes sense. You know, because, you know, yeah, because people want to, you know, if certain people don't get their way, get what they want to use race as an issue. They want to throw the, you know, race. They want to use the word diversity, you know, equality.
Okay.
You know, all these big words. But, you know, you know, the bottom line is this. If you want to be on that grand stage and take the next level, then raise some money. If you're running for mayor of New York City and you raise nothing, and everyone else is raising hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars, you know?
Well, you got to raise some money.
You got to raise money.
That's true.
And you got to have a real base.
Yeah.
You got to have a real base, and you know, you have to have thousands, tens of thousands of people behind you.
Well, I think, and I say this about all races.
And I'm not taking discredit from him particularly. He got 36,000 votes last year for Congress. You know, in a losing effort, and that's a huge accomplishment for someone the year before that got 182 votes for city council in 23.
Right.
182. Yeah. So 182 to 36,000. That's a huge effing jump. And that's a huge accomplishment, you know?
Absolutely. And it deserves to be acknowledged.
It doesn't mean, necessarily he deserves to be on the stage at a state national platform. We're going to give him an award, an honor,
Well,
but
it's politics.
Yeah, I mean...
Nobody gets
everything's
an award
not
for being
evolved
second
around
place.
him, it's not evolved around me, it's not evolved around you,
It's politics. Nobody gets an award for second place.
Yeah.
You win or you're not.
Like whether, either I'm going to win or lose this year, It doesn't mean I'm going to go and complain and write a letter, a statement, pretty much put, F the conservatives, Republicans, they didn't support me, they didn't back me, I could have,
Yeah, I get the emotion.
I didn't take personal shots at people that are his personal friends of his, like myself.
I truly believe that.
And actually supported him when
understand.
other people haven't supported.
I understand, but I think not knowing the mindset at the time, I can understand the emotion. I could think, and I know how high pressure it is to run a campaign, your campaign, anyone's campaign. It's not easy to be a candidate. People don't realize the pressure that's on you to do that. So I would imagine.
I understand.
The emotion. You say stupid things sometimes. You do stupid things sometimes. It happens. We've seen that with people who've been running forever, and they wind up doing something stupid and saying stupid things sometimes in a campaign. I think it's that more than
I said
anything
some,
else.
stupid things too. It happens.
It happens.
Just move on.
Well, what you do is you go back to your party, you go back to your people,
you apologize, and
and then you move forward.
Yeah.
And you make your campaign even better going forward. That's what I hope to see happen. Is Gonzalo moves away from this moment and. And the party takes the time to say, hey, it ain't over.
Because our real enemies is not ourselves, it's the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
That's who we have to try to unseat. And, It's already they already put obstacles against us. They challenge our petitions. They get a lot of candidates thrown off the ballot, whether they come with 100 signatures, 500, 1,000. Look at Cara Casanova. She had 150 or whatever, but that's a little different issue. I don't want to, but she went in there with 150, 200,000 petitions. So it was like multiple things. The Democrats had a hand in that as well. So.
Well, my friend Larry Sharp, I think you
Yeah.
met him before.
Yeah, he ran for governor.
Yeah, and Larry's a
Yeah,
friend
I
of mine.
interviewed him, yeah.
I've known him for a decade now. Met him because I did an interview with him, believe it or not, which was out the blue. We just met, and he said, yeah, I'll do the interview. 2.5 hours later, we're still talking. But now here it is, a decade later. He's a very good friend now. And I've seen it happen to him where petitions are just thrown out. I've seen it. I mean, the rule is always, if you're not a Democrat, you have to have at least 2.5 times as many signatures as you need.
Yeah.
And that's ridiculous. That's called the insurance plan. You need about
You always need extra, insurance.
Yeah, but think about it. You got to have twice, if not 2.5 times as many as you are supposed to get, just so that you get safe, because the lawyers on the Democratic side, the regulations out there, you can always throw out, there's always some signatures that are some issue, but they will go through it with a fine-tooth comb with their lawyers, draining your money, taking your time, and trying to frustrate you to get you kicked out because you didn't get 200% of what you were supposed to get. That's just ridiculous. But that's the abuse we see. That's the gerrymandering that's going on. And I think and that's for candidates, independents, conservatives, Republicans, the third party candidates, whether you're Libertarian or Green Party, doesn't matter. We all go through that same process. The only ones who don't, working families, Working Families Party, which in New York is just another division of the Democratic Party.
Exactly.
So it's ridiculous. But that makes me wonder, in your race, it's an interesting race. I don't know if a lot of people looked at it. In your race, you're going up against Anthony Weiner, a convicted sex offender.
Yeah.
Multiple times, by the way. He had his disgrace that got him kicked out with the Clintons.
Yeah. Congress and the whole thing.
And then he started sending out images to a underage girl.
There was multiple of her, but yeah.
Yeah, he's a mess. And he's in the race.
Yeah.
He's got like $27,000. Said he claims to have 150, and everyone sees only 27.
Yeah.
I don't know where I can't imagine why.
Well, he said on the radio on WABC, one of our other stations, that he raised like 50,000 in under 30 days.
That's what he says.
And he's still playing the game, to saying that he's not officially in. And he's exploring it. But meanwhile, he's building up a nice war chest at the same time.
Yeah, he's trying to see if he can get enough money to make it worthwhile.
Well, he's trying to see if he can get the support of the Democratic Party.
I can't see, why would they touch him? He's toxic. Because of, this isn't like Trump. There's a difference of opinion about whether or not, where the money got allocated from. This is a guy who sent a picture to a underage girl. It's documented. It's a fact. There's a big difference between a grown adult and an underage child. And I draw the line there. But he's in your race. And you also have Sarah Bachu. That's how it's said.
Sarah Bachu. She used to work with in the Blasio administration.
Yeah, which is ultra progressive. Oh my God, not good for New York.
And she's part of my community board 3.
Yeah, and she's running the race. And in 2023, she was getting special advice, as she said, advice on how to run and her political career from de Blasio directly. Now, mind you, this is right after he had his divorce, so everyone was talking about it.
Yeah, her rumors.
They were in the news media. New York Post was particularly pointing at it as like it's a sexual thing. But I'm going with what she said publicly, and she said no, it was just about her political advice. So she's advised, and that would make me think you're part of a very progressive administration. You're a key person in that progressive administration. You're getting special advice from the leader of that progressive administration, I have to believe that she has a strong influence in progressive politics, which everyone in the country and in New York are rejecting, because Eric Adams is also, he's a, what did he call it? He called it the day he won. He was on CNBC, and he said he is a practical progressive. This is the New York City of a practical progressive, by Eric Adams' words itself. I don't think anyone feels safe. I don't think anyone feels like their money is going as far as it could. I don't think anyone is enjoying this ride with Eric Adams.
Yeah, no,
just like they didn't enjoy it with de Blasio.
Especially all the victims out here the past 4 years.
Yeah, and Sarah's going to do even more. She's going to bring us back to, I just don't. So your race is kind of interesting. So,
and we got Harvey Epstein, the state assemblyman, who's controversial as well. And yeah, so we got him. We got Andrea Gordillo. She's the chairwoman of Community Board 3, and she's definitely left-wing socialist. And that would be another term of Carlina Rivera. I don't know if you're familiar with Carlina at all. But she's a socialist and left as you could come, and pro real estate. Sold out the Lower East Side's Village. We're real estate developers, and sold out NYCHA, where I live at now, in Jacob Reed's houses. We're actually going to start voting later this month for privatization, for a takeover of RAD and PAC. I don't know if you're familiar with those corporations.
No.
And what they do. So basically, they're under the guise, the RAD and PAC, that because of the neglect of where you live at, that they're going to come and take over, and they're going to improve, our quality of life. So NYCHA apartments has been in neglect. Developments has been neglect for decades. And I believe they're like $80 billion, $80 billion deficit that NYCHA would need, because there's about 500 residents citywide living in public housing. We have the biggest public housing in the country. So NYCHA would need about, whatever the number, $40-50 billion or more to repair every apartment, because there's like a few 100,000 apartment buildings, apartments. So the RAD PAC, they're coming in with the help of our governor, Kathy Hochul, who passed a couple of years ago, and Harvey Epstein is one of the assemblymen who brought the bill forward for her to sign. The trust, it's called the Preservation Trust that Kathy Hochul put into law. Harvey Epstein is one of the assemblymen that advocated for it. So pretty much it allows private corporations to come in and take over NYCHA developments. Okay, so it sounds good. They show us blueprints of remodeled apartments, and if they build a new building, we're gonna have brand new appliances and the whole thing. We're gonna have good plumbing. We're gonna have better heating and water. We're gonna have clean water, because we have an ongoing contamination the past several years, not just where I'm at, but around the city, with arsenic, asbestos, lead, a lot of stuff that gets people sick and even and die. And we had at least one resident that, we had a few elderly residents where I lived actually died. And then a young kid, like 21, 22 years old, Justice for Gavin, he died because he had high levels of arsenic and other stuff, because he used to drink from the tap water that we were getting at Jacob Reed's houses. And of course, the big cover-up, you saw that, right?
Yeah.
That we had initial reports by different, that it tested positive and it was high levels, unsafe. But then Eric Adams comes around because, people started, with lawsuits and that, because we had a few deaths in Jacob Reed's houses. He comes around and says it was false reporting, and they turned the whole thing around, and then he did a publicity stunt in one of the buildings on Avenue D and 10th Street, and went into the apartment and got a cup of water and drank it.
Well, that's always the gimmick, I drank one cup of this, do that for the next year.
Well, try to come to my apartment, to one of our buildings, and test our water. It was black.
Well, see, that makes it very interesting to me because Sarah Batchu,
Yeah.
she just came out and said on January 20th, 2025, in an interview with Our Town, New York, the publication, online publication, and she did an interview and she said with them that she, after spending an entire year talking to constituents, she has moved from housing being a major issue, her number one issue, to crime because she didn't know for the last year, 2024, woman being burned alive on the subway.
Oh, she didn't know.
She didn't realize that safety is the number one issue for all the constituents. So I'd have to ask you, do you realize whether or not safety is an issue for the constituents in your district?
Yeah, just the past 2 weeks, we had a guy who got arrested for assaulting a few people, robberies, assault. He got released, and within half an hour coming back to Lillian Ward projects on Avenue D, he in the East Village, he sexually assaulted 3 women, including 2 underage girls.
I saw that.
And then he finally got rearrested, and this time they held him on $200,000 bail.
Should have done it the first time.
And he has many priors of drug possession, drug sales, sexual assault, robberies. Why is someone like this even on the streets, period? It's because of our no cash bail system that we have, that our great governor, Governor Cuomo, passed a few years back. So, that's why I'm supporting and advocating for Maura Marin to be the next Manhattan District Attorney, and she has my full support because we need law and order, and we need to hold people accountable. Let's go after criminals instead of presidents.
Well, I don't think they want to do that.
We need real law and order to keep everybody safe, and that is my number one priority, besides making sure that, NYCHA residents are protected. We got to make sure that we're all protected, whether you live in public housing or you live in Madison Avenue. We all have to be protected. We need law and order, law enforcement to do their job, and we need a justice system that does their job as well.
Well, you're reaching there because we're in New York City, inside New York State, and asking for justice.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of hard. I mean, remember, New York City is where were 6,000 rioters, looters, vandals. This is in 2020, 2021. There were 6,000 cases of rioting in the first and second degree.
And they should all have been locked up.
And they were all absolved.
You got people putting Palestinian flags, Iranian flags. You got people in Times Square publicly chanting "Death to America," burning American flags, assaulting Americans, assaulting Jewish people. Like, what is going on here? I mean, I support free speech, but not hate speech.
Well,
anti-American.
See, I have a problem with hate speech because I don't believe there is hate speech. Speech is speech. Now, there's violent speech. There's inciting violence. That's
when
different.
You're chanting "Death to America,"
well, see, that's
and "Death to Jews," "Death to Christians,"
and that's violent. That is inciting violence, and there I agree. Now, the reason why I don't like the words hate speech, because it can be used to cover anything, and it has been used to cover anything.
And that's what the Dems do to spin it.
And that's how they spin it. But now, if we say, well, you're inciting people to try and kill someone. Yeah, you know what? That's crossed the line. That's something that isn't covered, because I'm a near absolutist when it comes to the First Amendment. But that breaks it. And I think that's a big problem. So I agree with you there. Again, that's my one caveat about that, is that hate speech. It's a way to give someone an out. It's an out. And I think it's useless. And it's a way to silence people like you and me just because, I don't like it. I'm offended. You being offended does not mean that I can't speak. It means, you don't watch, you don't listen to me, you do whatever else. You come out and say, I disagree. But that doesn't mean I have to shut up. And that's the way the Democrats are using that, which is why I really can't stand it. But I understand the reasoning.
Yeah, I just want to circle back quickly.
Sure.
On that public housing situation. So Rad Pack, because this is an initiative with the Governor Hochul and Eric Adams, So to wrap it up is I have real concerns about Rad Pack privatization, takeover of public housing, because I've seen, it's public record, you could go look it up, Google or whatever, it's public record, that once they take over a development, yes, they will renovate, and you finally get your repairs done in your apartment and stuff like that, and they even renovated buildings and, even built, or in the process of building new buildings. But what they don't tell you is that once they take over, you lose your federal protected status to, secure guaranteed housing. It's an issue between Section 9 and Section 8. So right now, if your development is owned and controlled by the federal government through HUD, you have protection under Section 9. Okay? So that guarantees you certain rights, that you can't have a wrongful eviction out of nowhere. They just could kick you and your family out, because we're talking about families that have been living in NYCHA, for 30, 40 years. You have a lot of elderly, disabled people. I take care of my disabled elderly mother, who's going through her cancer battle and everything.
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you. And there's many people in that situation, stuff like that. So what happens is, once Rad and PAC take over a period of, obviously you lose your Section 9, and then you potentially even lose Section 8, and Section 8 is worthless. So let's say you get they tell you they want to take your apartment, and they give you a voucher for Section 8. No one is taking Section 8 vouchers.
That's a local.
So
it's a local.
Yeah,
matter.
locally, like no one's taking Section 8 vouchers. So where are you going to go with a Section 8 voucher if you lose your apartment in public housing? So this is real concerns about the Rad Pack, because where I live, I'm one of the residents there. We're about to vote in the next 2 months on this issue. Are we going to privatize, or are we going to stay, public? So because the statistics are out there that within a year after Rad Pack take over a public housing development, that they start evicting people, and then they jack up the rents. Or once they take over development, they'll repurpose a building into a condominium, into
gentrification.
Exactly. Into a condominium, into a dormitorium. So who's that for? It's not for us. It's not for low income people. It's not for hardworking people. People have a misconception about public housing. It's not just the poor that are on disability, welfare, whatever. It's hardworking. You got cops that live in public housing. You got doctors. You got teachers. Because who could afford the rent? This is a bigger issue. Who could afford $5,000-$10,000 a month rent? And I feel that City of Yes, this goes back to the City Yes, I feel that hasn't done enough. I wouldn't have supported that bill. It's going to eliminate single family homes within the next 5 years. So there's a lot of concerns with that in general, so we need somebody to regulate, because right now Rad and PAC, they're taking over developments that have property values of billions of dollars, like where I live at in the Lower East Side, East Village, particularly Alphabet City. It's along the FDR Drive,
right,
facing Brooklyn. That is one of the highest property values in the country. You're talking about million and billion dollar properties there, and what's in the way? Public housing developments.
Yeah, if they have to redevelop it, it's going to go gentrified.
And we already seen that with them destroying the East River Park. Carlina removed the zoning district. They're saying that it's under the guise for superstorms, storms in the future for flooding and stuff like that. But we lost hundreds of trees the past 2 years. I look outside my window where I live at, and I see it firsthand every day. So we have increased pollution numbers. We already have one of the highest asthma and cancer rates in the city,
So
in the country.
aren't one of the purposes of having the trees?
Is to combat the carbon dioxide from the traffic from the highway.
That's one reason, which would help for asthma, but it also helps to prevent flooding.
And they removed all the trees.
And they removed the trees.
They cut all the trees altogether.
So the very same people you're running against took away the trees.
Exactly.
That would remove would lower the incidence of asthma, would improve the air quality, and are making the area more prone to flooding.
And also environmental disaster, because they're digging into our ground and they actually made it worse. They contaminated our water system and our soil even worse.
And this is the people we're running.
Yeah, this is the people that is currently in office, like Harvey Epstein, who's running for city council. He's in part of the environmental protection for the state of New York. He's on the committee, and he approved this.
He is on the committee, yeah.
And Carlina, she's outgoing councilwoman, but she approved this. And my opponents, not all of them, Ali Ryan is on the same side with me against this. But my opponents, Andrea Gordillo, Harvey Epstein, and Sarah Pachu, all support that.
That's just crazy. I mean, when you
only
think about
Anthony Weiner, I could say that. The one of the few things, and I've been coming out a little hard on Anthony Weiner on attack ads about his past and his credibility.
Well, he earned it.
But he is the only one that spoke out against what's going on. He brought it up recently about the increase in asthma rates is increased between 20 to 30%, especially now with the congestion pricing. With that has now increased traffic even more. So now we have more, carbon dioxide and all that with the increase of traffic flow that we have on the FDR Drive, and of
trying
course,
to avoid pricing.
So yeah.
But again, that goes into
Yeah.
what we see often with Democrats, that
There you
they
go.
don't think about the consequences of their actions.
Elections have consequences.
Well, their policies
Yeah.
have consequences, and
Yeah.
they stop talking about the policies when the consequences start happening.
Yeah.
And then they switch to the next issue.
Exactly.
We see it all the time.
And that's one of the key reasons why I'm in this race, so I could bring up these issues and I could confront them on it. Because, they want to talk about all the good things they've done, and they gave out millions and millions of dollars, like Mr. Monopoly and all these things, but they're not going to talk about the damage that they've done to our communities. They're not going to talk about so that's what I'm here for, to bring that all to light.
Well, they love to talk about the feelings.
Yeah.
Didn't it feel good to do this? And then it's like, yeah, but what's the consequence? Because I don't care about your feeling. I care about the facts and what's happening to people in reality. So, I mean, it's like when we were talking about, and I want to go back to law and order and protecting people, safety. Well, that's crime. That's illegal aliens. There's a couple of components.
And also the
to that.
e-bikes too. All those e-bikes have to get regulated, or scooters, mopeds, they all have to be regulated. I support Priscilla's law because they're a danger, and a lot of people have been killed. I got hit by a bike, like a year and a half ago, and I got hurt. It wasn't too bad. My friend, he got a few months ago, got a head-on collision with a bicyclist, and he had a separated shoulder, the whole thing, so it's outrageous. They go right on the sidewalks and everything, so we definitely have to combat that as well. But continue, go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Interesting thing
Circle
about the
back.
e-bikes. No problem, I'll circle back. But
Yeah.
the e-bikes, just as a side note, the idea for that, do you know where that came from? France, Paris in particular. And you know what they did in Paris? The same year that we started introducing e-bikes into New York City was the same year that Paris said no e-bikes. They actually banned it. So because they know the experiment failed. It's not a good idea. Not only because of that, but because of the fires that are found often with these electric vehicles. A lot of people don't realize. That's why we were talking about Assembly Bill A2005. I invite people to check this out for themselves. But essentially, Kathy Hochul, I want to know your opinion on this. Tell me if this makes sense to you. Kathy Hochul says that she's going to go and she mandated, so it's not even a choice, mandated, every single school in New York State, it must switch to an electric bus to take our kids anywhere, okay? And each electric bus costs about double what it costs for a regular bus, now counting the charging stations, which means taxes. Communities all across New York, including New York City, everyone's going to be hit with new taxes because we've got to build all this stuff and buy these vehicles. That's one problem.
And it comes down to the taxpayers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's another pressure. It's another
Just
reason
another
to leave
tax.
New York State. Another tax.
And over 1.5 million people the past 4 years have left New York State.
And they're actually more, but
Yeah.
because they keep including the illegal aliens in that number. It's the reason why we only lost one congressman instead of 3. But that's besides the point. So, but here's the thing. So we have this really expensive idea for the electric buses. And we know, according to New York City Fire Department Chief, I forget his last name, in his report with Homeland Security, we can't combat the fires on these electric vehicles. Something a lot of people don't know. When these electric vehicles, if one cell in the battery, and they usually have about 2 dozen cells in each part of the battery, once one of those cells goes, it will go up in flames. It will keep burning, and they are a danger for fire until every single cell on that vehicle burns. That can take up to 3 weeks for that to happen, according to documentation in Washington State, New York State, and Homeland Security. And on top of that, the temperature is high enough that it can cremate someone in 2 minutes once the fire goes. It takes about 2 minutes for an electric bus to be engulfed in toxic flames. The smoke is toxic, it's carcinogenous. And the chemicals, well, the batteries explode in the fire. The chemicals of those batteries, if they get on your skin, they're corrosive and cancerous. So you got 2 minutes to get out of the bus before it gets enveloped in flames that will incinerate you. And if you get outside the bus, you still got to get far enough away so that you're away from the smoke and or the splash damage. And on top of all of that, according to New York City Fire Chief and Washington State, we don't know how to put those fires out. We don't know. There is no standard for the safety features. We're not capable of fighting these fires or protecting people, and we're putting our kids in these things. Tell me, does that make sense to you?
No, it don't at all. And the fact that it's a safety hazard and a potential, death trap. This is another failed, policy and agenda of the Democrats. Without checks and balances, you should not be releasing vehicles, electric buses, cars, e-bikes, whatever, without safety protocols and protections. Because it's we had so many situations in New York City alone with multiple fatalities, with explosions in people's apartments and everything, with the e-bikes and everything. I had a real bad one. I think someone died where I live at in Jacob Reese. The apartment is still boarded up. You could go past the building and see the board. It's still boarded up in the black. We have actually black all on that floor. A few apartments were freaking destroyed.
Yeah.
That's just the e-bike. I think the person had several e-bikes there. I think he was doing repairs or something. But imagine a bus. If that was just a few e-bikes, imagine a whole bus full of kids.
Well, we've seen it. There's video of what happened to one of the e-buses in driving down the Parkway in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And they just got the kids out in time. That was
God.
April of 2022, as I recall.
Okay.
There's another, most recently in Maine. One of the electronic buses burst into flame, took out all 4 buses and the entire garage that they had just built. We're talking millions of dollars, all gone. So we know it can be devastating. It's just a matter of time for the kids. Let me ask you this. I don't know how much time we got. I want to ask. You were talking about crime
Yeah.
and getting things to be more safe. Donald Trump today, and we knew this was coming. November 25th, I asked a question at the Bronx Conservative Party meet and greet with Christine Momato.
Yep. Shout out to her.
And
City Councilwoman.
Yeah. And I asked her a
I
question.
hope to join her this November.
Hopefully. And I asked her a question then, and I said, we know that Donald Trump is going to cut funding to sanctuary cities. Is New York City ready for it? The answer at the time was no. They hadn't been considering that. Today, Pam Bondi came out and she just said she's cutting the funding to sanctuary cities. That means New York City. We're going to get cut. And that's because we have open borders. We have over 200,000 illegal aliens in New York City that are destroying our infrastructure, that are costing about $5 billion a year because they get $73,000 per person. That's in being put into a 3-star hotel. That's being given a credit card to buy food and extra walk-around money. I don't get that. You don't get that.
I spoke to a few people before. I think Gonzalo was one of them. I said, let's go across the border to Mexico and then come back here legally.
Yeah, and live a decent life and actually be able to afford living in New York City in particular.
Because these people are coming from they're coming from whatever country, and they're going all around they're being traveled. Somehow they wind up in upstate New York. They're going to Miami. They're going to Texas. They're going to California. They're being flown around on taxpayer dollars too, either statewide or federal at the time. So they're traveling across country somehow.
Well, we know it's been midnight for the children in particular. It's been midnight flights by the United States government under the Biden-Harris administration. They flew them to Tennessee. They flew them into New York, into California. They flew them around so that they wouldn't be all at the border, remember? They wouldn't let Ted Cruz go in. Blocked him off for that because the cage is built by Obama. Can't see the kids in there, so they flew them out. So this is part of that. Here's the thing. Would you support, the law is, first of all, the law says they're illegal aliens. They're not migrants, they're illegal aliens. They've broken the law, they don't live here. They're criminals. So if you don't like illegal alien, the word criminal, that's what they are. Do you believe that criminals should be rewarded for their crime? That's one. Two, since the laws and since the president is enforcing the law that exists, so he's not making anything up, he's enforcing the law that exists, would you, if elected, support enforcing the law as it exists?
Now, which law you talking about? City, state, or federal?
Well, Trump would be federal, but the law is consistent. New York State is not legally able to take in illegal aliens. We're violating the law. That's why we're a sanctuary state. We break the laws.
I would support the federal law that we have to go by with President Trump's administration. And I actually, if elected into city council, I will support a bill to abolish sanctuary city status, at least into New York City. If upstate New York wants to do it, but it's been a drain on our local economy. It's also, many of these individuals, not all, but many of these individuals have wreaked havoc, have committed serious crimes, including murder, even killing police officers, attacking citizens. So our budget this year for city council, they appropriated, I think, almost $6 billion this year alone, because they did of course, city council, they do the budget a year in advance.
Right.
So they appropriated about $6 billion this year of our taxpayer money to go to the migrants and support that. So if we eliminate that, the sanctuary city in New York City, we repeal that, that gives $6 billion that we could give back to communities, including mine. We could go higher another 10,000 police officers. We could help keep hospitals like Mount Sinai, Beth Israel open instead of closing. We could keep the Iron Air Infirmary on East 14th Street and 2nd Avenue. We could keep that open. We could, there's many, we could repurpose that money in so many different ways. So I definitely would go against City Hall. I would go against, unless we have a Republican, mayor, hopefully this November. But I would support President Trump and deportation of all migrants, illegal migrants, 100%.
Yeah. Well, see, that's why I don't like migrants.
And criminals, they need to be locked up. If you do the crime, you do the time.
That's
it.
Isn't that always the way? That was.
Yeah.
I know I'm a bit older.
And that's why I support Maura Marin, because she's been a great prosecutor for over 20 years. She's no nonsense, and we may have to bring back the 1990s style for just a little while, of Rudy Giuliani.
The 1990s weren't that bad. I was alive then. I'm older.
And we were a lot safer back then because of people like Rudy Giuliani, and we had real prosecutors as district attorneys and not pacifists. Let's give the person therapy. Let's give the person counseling. He just killed 2 people, but let's give him counseling. Let's give him therapy. No, if you're or a violent offender, if you're a sexual offender, if you're a drug dealer that's polluting our neighborhood with drugs and killing our youth, no, your ass is going to prison. You're gonna stay there.
See,
that's it.
This is radio. A lot of people may not realize it.
Yeah.
I'm actually a lot older than you are.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, folks, I'm about to be 57 this year. So I remember the 90s, and I remember what was before the 90s. See, a lot of people.
There was a lot of
remember.
civil. I know. I was a young kid, but I saw there was a lot of things going on.
It was a crack epidemic.
Yeah.
It was the crack epidemic.
And then we had
rampant.
we had the riots in the late '80s, like Crown Heights, between
There weren't so many riots. It was the crack epidemic.
Yeah.
It was the violence was coming from the crack epidemic,
Yeah.
which was throughout this entire city, and we needed to go from what we were doing then, which is what we did in the 70s. This is a repeating thing when we get Democrats in for too long. We then get very soft on crime, and then the crime runs rampant. Then we get someone strong in to be daddy and to enforce the laws as they exist, rather than putting in their feelings in the way. And then things calm down and people become safer, and things are actually pretty good. And no matter what.
But we need consistency, and we need a 2-party.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've seen New York. New York is a perfect example of a 1-party rule.
Yeah.
That's why I'm not only conservative, I'm also Republican, because there's a balance. We need to have balance because the Democratic Party, you've seen the failures of a city or state when it's only 1-party rule, especially on the Democratic side. And it's disgraceful. This was a great city, and it's like a third world country now. I speak to people that are actually from third world countries, Ukraine, the Middle East, Eastern Europe. They come from Korea or whatever, South Korea or whatever. And they tell me what a shithole New York City has become.
Well, it has. My family's been here in the same place in New York City, in the Bronx, for 50 years. Okay? It's actually over 50 years.
And we got the worst subway system in the whole world.
It's been bad. It's been getting worse, and I don't understand why, considering how much we spend on it. And in 50 years of my family being in the same exact place, I have seen everything. It's fallen apart. The Bronx looks nothing like it used to be. Right where my family grew up, where I grew up, we used to have a butcher store. We used to have a cobbler shoe store. We used to have a furniture store, a secondhand furniture store, 2 movie theaters, a supermarket. That's within 2.5 blocks.
Yeah.
Today, I've got half a dozen hair weaving places. I've got
How many smoke shops?
the bodegas. We got one, pretty much. Actually, now it's one on every corner.
Yeah.
People
Have to go to Manhattan to go to a movie now.
Oh yeah, there's no movie theaters anywhere around. I mean, you got to go to Co-op City.
Yeah.
That's it, which is a bit of a distance from where I'm at, and it's ridiculous that we've lost everything that made it very special to be in New York City.
Yeah.
And I'm just talking one small area. You can go anywhere across the city. So I understand exactly what you're saying here, that we need to have that consistency, because people who've been alive long enough remember we had it and then we gave it away because we stopped enforcing the laws. At least that's my opinion of it. We stopped enforcing the laws, and then, oh, look, we got people being burned alive. Didn't do that. We had lots of problems in New York in the 70s, 80s, 90s. Given. We're not a perfect city. People weren't getting burned alive.
Yeah.
Just because.
Yeah.
That's just ridiculous, okay?
And it's unacceptable.
It's unacceptable.
Public safety should be non-negotiable. It is non-negotiable. That's the number one job. And if you can't effectively do that, you shouldn't hold any position as an elected official at any level.
Yeah. Now, I've asked you a couple of questions back and forth, but you got a question for me?
So, yeah.
You name it, anything.
All right. So here's a good one. To you, what makes someone a good candidate for public office? What should be their qualifications?
I don't see, that's tricky, because it's not qualifications like, oh, did you go to an Ivy League school?
Yeah.
I could care less. That's meaningless. The only thing that's good for is if you're going to be an academic. Do you want to be a professor of basket weaving too? Do you want to teach lesbian dance? Then yes, you should get a master's degree or a PhD. Fantastic, because that's the only people who are ever going to use that as another academic. But I want to know, are you a intelligent human being? In other words, can I have a conversation with you, ask you a question, you think about it and you give me an intelligent answer back? Not parrot what someone else, some other bullet point. I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear some I feel. I don't care. I have my own feelings. You have your feelings. And notice, I'm always supposed to adopt the feeling of some progressive blue-haired person that doesn't know whether they're he, she, or they, them. Okay, that's your problems.
That's whole nother thing.
Well, that's a whole nother thing. But here's the thing: I'm supposed to feel like them. They never want to feel like me. Why are they special? Why are they more special than me? It's my life, so I don't care about feelings. So what I want to hear from a candidate is: do you have an effective plan? Do you have an efficient plan? I don't have to like the plan. I don't have to agree with the plan. But if you want to be a candidate, I want to know that you have an effective plan, an efficient plan. Hell, you know what? At this time in the world, I will settle for, do you have a plan? Mm-hmm. Because we've been living at a time where people don't. Great example, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris. I've asked this a lot of progressives and Democrats, left-leaning people all the time. What was the Biden-Harris administration's plan on international policy? What was their domestic plan? I know that they wanted to get elected.
Keep giving out money.
Well, that's pretty much it, because all they did is they got to the next election. That's all they kept doing is, let's focus on the next election, the next election. They didn't have a plan, and that's when everything fell apart. Look at New York City. What is the plan? Eric Adams, what are you doing? He's jumping from issue to issue onto anything that's hot button at the moment, saying the most popular thing that he can to boost up his favor with the Democrats. And when New York City said, we can't handle the illegal aliens, they're breaking our infrastructure, we can't afford it, because then we're giving the money to them, we can't afford the schools, we can't afford crime, we can't afford this. He said, okay, I'm going to go down to D.C. Finally, took years. He finally says, I'll go to a meeting, talk to Democrats in D.C. about this, so they maybe, federal government maybe changes their mind even a little bit. He got indicted. He's in trouble with the Democrats because they said, shut up. It's an election year. Shut up. And he got in, now he's under investigation. Everybody who knows him is under investigation. And he stopped talking. And now his new thing is, well, I was a Republican before I couldn't get elected, so I became a Democrat so I could get elected, and now I went progressive because, of course, if you're going to go Democrat, truly be Democrat, then be progressive. And now he's saying, well, maybe I'm a Republican, actually. No, you're an opportunist. You're an opportunist.
He's a con man.
That's another way to put it, yes. And
he owes the He owes the city of New York, the taxpayers, $10 million.
At least, but
Yeah.
But my thing is, he's not a candidate because he doesn't have an effective policy. He doesn't have a plan on anything. He's saying whatever's going to get him to the next election.
Well, we have a fourth or fifth police commissioner. We have the former sanitation commissioner as the police commissioner right now.
Because it doesn't matter. Because they're not enforcing the law at all. Again, It's like I said, they don't have an efficient plan. They don't have an effective plan. They don't even have a plan. So I can't call you a candidate because you're not standing for anything.
Yeah, you got to stand for something first.
Yeah, and that's, give me that first. Yeah. I can work on every, I don't care if you speak well, don't speak well. I could care less if you use Grammarly to write every sentence as long as it's yours and you have a plan. Okay. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I know not a lot of people like hearing it that way because they tell me, Mike, you're so harsh. I don't care. Because your feelings will change in 5 minutes. But that criminal down the street, he doesn't care about your feelings. Mm-hmm. You know, the taxes being drawn out of your pocket, you can't afford to go to the grocery store. No one cares about your feelings. But I feel so sad about this. Yeah, that's still not going to buy you
you got to pay your bills when the first comes, or you got to pay your rent or mortgage. The banks don't give a damn. Oh, you know, your dog died. Oh, well, too bad. You know, one's going to
give me my check. Yeah,
yeah, that's it.
That's it. So that's why and the same way that they look at us, I'm looking at the politicians. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a fair way to do it. I hope that answered your question. What else? What else might you got for me?
So tell people about yourself. You know, tell people about yourself. They can get to know who you are. Whatever you could disclose.
Well, no problem. I'm public. I'm a public figure for a long time now. I am 57, Black Hispanic. In case anyone didn't notice, I know it's radio, so you can't tell. And I'm really good looking. Trust me.
He's Denzel, a younger Denzel.
But I'm a former Marine. I've lived around the world, lived in Moscow, lived in Tbilisi, in Riga, and Latvia. And speak a couple of languages. But most importantly, I've been doing political commentary for about 2 decades now, covering everything. A big emphasis on international policy because that has a lot to do with the United States. But I cover every issue. Talk to presidential, vice presidential candidates, like serious candidates. I've talked to members of Congress, candidates for Congress, Assembly, everybody. So what I do is political commentary. It's this kind of thing, usually on your side of the street.
Yeah.
But I do that, and I also speak at various events, talking about First Amendment, Second Amendment are very big issues for me, talking about people's rights and about effective government. So maybe not the best description, but you know what? Easiest thing. Type in no sound bites. That's sound bites with an I. No sound bites allowed. I'm in every search engine. I know that I can go to France and look it up and you'll find me. And I've been doing this a long time. So I got a lot I do a show every week and I spend a lot of time talking about it.
I hear you. So we got a few minutes left. So tell me, what are your predictions and expectations for the upcoming New York City, local races that we have this year? All the way from the local city council to all the way to mayor.
Well, I've been paying attention more to the mayor's race.
Yeah, because that's the
big one.
Yeah, that's the big one.
Because we have a lot. I mean, people forget how many people we have in this city.
Yeah,
it's like,
and there's a lot of candidates registered. I mean, a lot of them are not qualified, but we have a lot of people. I mean, and I had several mayor candidates here in these studios or on my platforms over the past several months.
Yeah, it is a huge number. There's 12 people running for the race at different levels.
No, there's a lot more than that. There's like at least 20 something, and several of them are young, which is good. We want younger people, regardless of what party you're in, registered with. We want younger people involved in politics and civil engagement. So I commend everyone just by, trying this out. A lot of people's not going to make the ballot or anything. But just the fact that you stepped up and you gave this a chance, that shows the potential in everyone, including myself. I stepped up first time running for public office. I'm not a career politician or anything like that. I got family that, has been involved in politics. I got friends that are involved and run for office and stuff like that. So,
You know what the truth is? A lot of people don't realize this. I've talked to people about it before. Out of the say there's 10 people, right? And out of those 10 people, that represents the public in general, right? 6 out of 10 don't vote. Guess what? 6 out of 10 people don't exist. They don't count. They're meaningless. If you don't vote,
that's right,
you are nothing.
You can't complain about the way things are if you don't go and vote.
And no one cares how you feel. No one cares what your issue is.
Yeah.
You could have the answer. You could have the answer to finding the leprechaun's pot of gold, or you may have the most serious issue that everyone wants to work on. No one cares because you didn't vote.
That's one of the biggest problems I have in my community. I speak to a lot of people of all backgrounds, and they tell me that they don't vote. And say, oh, why? It doesn't matter. Nothing's going to change anyway.
It absolutely won't,
and
because
it won't
you didn't vote. And here's the thing. Out of the 4 people that are left, you've got big donor, small donor, consistent voter, and sometime voter. Sometime voter, no one cares about because you're not consistent, can't count on you. The constant voter, they're important, but big donor and small donor, they're more important because you got to get those commercials. You got to get those ads out. Why? Because the sometimes voter might decide to jump in and vote, and you want them to vote for you. Mm-hmm. So they spend a lot of money on that. It's just like, do you want to eat McDonald's today or you want to eat Burger King? Well, which one was the last ad you saw? That's the one you're probably going to go to. And that's the politics. So big donors get the first. They're going to pay attention to them. Small donors, they're going to pay attention to them next. The constant voter, they'll occasionally listen to you. And the sometimes voter, they might say hi, and everyone else, you don't count.
Yeah.
And the only way we change that is, I guarantee you, if 6 out of 10 people were voting, it wouldn't matter how much money you put into politics. It wouldn't matter what the big donors do. There's too many of us voting. We outweigh them. They'd have to pay attention. And again, I don't care what party you're voting for. I don't care who you're voting for. I only ask people to have a reason to vote. Don't tell me they look good. Don't tell me that, the party liked them. Don't quote whatever news station you listen to. Have a reason. This person, I like your race. You know why I like your race? Because you're passionate about the housing. You know how it's affecting people. You know the things like, oh, the trees have been taken away, and that's going to affect people's health in terms of asthma and other conditions because of the smog that are right around there. You're aware of the fact that the trees are helping against the flood control. You know what the houses are like. You know that there are houses that are burning because people are trying to do a side gig working on e-bikes. You understand the connection of having not enough money and having a government that doesn't care. That's why I like why you're running. That's why I think it's important that you're running. That makes a difference to me. But another empty promise? Don't worry, Mike. We're going to have illegal aliens, but it'll be fine. But it hasn't been fine. And we're wasting money that we are not obligated to spend. But Mike, they showed up because you let them in. It's not my obligation. By the way, you sent your kid 2,000 miles walking with a bunch of people knowing that they're going to be surrounded by drug dealers and human traffickers. And you sent that kid 2,000 miles on their own with just the clothes on their back. Anyone else does anything even close to that, it's called child abuse. And you would throw those parents into jail. Instead, we're saying, oh yeah, give me that kid and give me some more. Wait a minute, we're promoting child abuse now? Some of those kids are going to be sold into human trafficking. So we're supporting slavery now?
That's another big issue.
Some of those kids are going to be drug
used. Especially in the
used.
city and in Queens and and with the prostitution and all that.
Yeah, and then you get, some of those kids will be drug mules. Now they're going to turn into gangbangers, or they're going to be addicts in drugs. And that's another drain. Do you see how that's a problem? And the Democrats, no, Mike, you just don't understand. They love to say, you just don't understand. No, I think I pretty much understand it. And they don't have an answer. I talk to you, you have an answer. Whether people love your answer or dislike your answer, you have an answer. They don't. They're saying, we're just going to keep doing the same thing. Well, what you did isn't working.
And then they talk about what they're going to do, but you forget to mention that they've already been in office, and what have they done previously?
That's the other thing.
And if they're currently in office now, running for another position, you're already in the position like Harvey Epstein. He is a state assemblyman, and he's one of the most powerful people up there, and he's already in the position to make changes and directly impact our communities. So how's he promising to do things if you elect me to city council when you've already been a state assemblyman for the past 10 years, and what the hell have you done?
Well, that's the thing. It's like what Kamala Harris said. I've got the answer to the inflation, and I'll only give it to you if you elect me president. Well, wait a minute, you're vice president. What are you waiting for?
Yeah.
Isn't that your job to try and fix these things? Oh, well, if you elect me mayor, I will fix this for you. Yeah, but you're an assemblyman now. Fix it now. Why do we have to wait? Why do we have to promote you? Why do we have to re-elect you? Your job is to
the state
fix
assemblymen, for example, they have power over. They have real influence. They have power over the mayor. They have power over city council.
They do. They help to make the state laws. And instead of trying to protect us, they said, you know what? Wearing a passive self-defense, that's called a bulletproof vest, rather than wearing a bulletproof vest to help protect you, because a bulletproof vest is such an offensive weapon. Oh my God, it's so deadly. How many people have died from being attacked by a bulletproof vest? Yeah, none, zero. But that's illegal now in New York. Illegal to defend yourself passively because of the New York State single party rule. And yet they're saying, but by the way, that violent illegal alien who has been arrested a dozen times, yeah, we're going to arrest him and no bail, let him back out. And don't worry, it'll be different this time because they promised. And we passed a law. And he's not going to break a law, besides the law that he broke to get into the country, besides the law that got him into jail in the first place. But this time he's going to pay attention to the law. Trust us. I'm sorry, no. You can see this gets me going.
Yeah, I hear you.
And people don't think about how these things are connected. So why are we re-electing these people who are doing the same thing over and over again, and they don't have a single new idea? Real quick, gun control. Red flag laws. I hate red flag laws because they're useless. I know this because I talked to the state of Connecticut. I've talked to the state of Indiana. I've read all 4 red flag studies on red flag laws. You know what that is? Red flag laws weren't meant to stop gun violence. They weren't for mass shootings or school shootings. Red flag laws are to reduce the amount of suicides, particularly those with guns. Not explicitly, but along with that. And every study that's been done on it, except all 3 studies out of the 4 say they don't work. The one study says they might work, but we're not sure. That's all 4 studies. No one can tell you that if red flags were great, if they actually worked, they would quote the numbers. They would tell you how effective they are. Not one politician has done that since 1999. You know what they don't tell you? Red flag laws take away your kids. No one thinks about it. CPS, Child Protective Services, exists in every single state that's passed it, 18 states. If your home, if you are a danger to yourself and your family, you didn't break a law, but someone says you're dangerous, and the state said, we're going to take away your Second Amendment right, we're going to take away your property, which is also, that's Third Amendment. They're taking away your rights. If you're that dangerous, according to Child Protective Services in every state in this nation, then you're too dangerous to have your kids. They must, by law, take your children out. And then now you have to go into court, and it costs, according to the lawyers I've talked to, it'll cost somewhere around $12,000 to $20,000 fighting the state to get your kids back. And you've never committed a crime. And by the way, if anyone's wondering, I have actually talked to the Assembly members and the Senate, New York State Senate members, who voted for red flag laws. I asked them this very same question. Said, is that true? Is that the fact? Is that the consequence? Every single one of them who voted yes for this bill said, yes, that's correct. And every lawyer I spoke to in New York State and around the country, yes, that is correct. I asked Connecticut, I asked Indiana, I asked New York State, how many families how many kids did you take away from families? We don't collect that data. Not that they don't do it, not that it's not legal. We don't collect that data. So, I mean, there you go. They keep pushing these lies on us, and it doesn't help. But go ahead.
So to wrap up here,
Yes.
we're running out of time, but we'll definitely have you come back again, and everyone can listen to this on all streaming platforms on Spotify, iHeartRadio.com, Apple Podcasts, Speaker, or platforms where you listen to us on Who's Next NYC Radio. So definitely make sure you subscribe to our channels on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Speaker, Apple Podcasts, Roku, Fire TV, etc. Just type in Who's Next NYC Radio podcast, and we're there. So you can listen to us and listen to this very program as well. And we'd love to have your feedback. You can follow me on the gram at DJ Loudmouth Official, DJ Loudmouth Official. Also my political Instagram account, Jason Murillo for NYC, Jason Murillo for NYC. That's Murillo. On X or Twitter, X now, formerly Twitter, is Jason Murillo NY, Jason Murillo NY. Jason Murillo or DJ Loudmouth on social media, on Facebook, the whole thing. And of course, my campaign website, Jason Murillo for NYC.com or DJ Loudmouth for NYC.com. And one more time, plug your podcast and your social media and everything.
I'm on No Soundbites Allowed, and pretty much all social media. It's almost always the same. So Rumble, YouTube, X, all of that. Look that, or just look up Michael Vass, Vass, and you'll find me, because I look lovely. You'll know exactly who I am. But please make sure that not only do you check me out, but please make sure you give support to Jason, giving me the wonderful opportunity to join everyone here on WPAT. Almost 100 years you guys have been doing this.
Yep.
Thank you guys for doing that. And of course, on all the different platforms, give him some love. Definitely give him a like. I thank you.
Give me $10. I need $10 so I could get matching funds. Everybody, I got my campaign manager and advisor. I got everyone telling me get $10. Make sure that if you can, if you're in district, if you're in the Lower East Side, East Village, Alphabet City, Kibbs Bay, Farrington, etc., I need $10 from every person. All right, so we get like 200,000 listeners here or more weekly. So everyone send me $10 each to go to my website right now, Jason Murillo for NYC.com or DJ Lama for NYC.com.
All right.
All right, so it was a pleasure having you in the studio, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I look forward to the response we get from this, and definitely follow up. And we'll have you here periodically.
Absolutely.
So we'll definitely have a good, intelligent conversation.
I look forward to it.
Likewise. So there you go. Who's Next NYC Radio with no soundbites allowed. And for today, it was definitely a situation. All right, so we check you guys out soon. All right, take care. God bless New York and God bless America.
God bless America.